everyone, I'm Hannah, host of the Doing the Art podcast, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode with my guest, Killer Kross. Now, this episode was recorded at Ground Zero, S.2 in Imperial Beach, California. Now, please like, comment, and subscribe to the Doing the Art podcast. Now, let's get on to it. Okay, so hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Doing the Art podcast. And today I have a very special guest. It is Killer Kevin Kross.
How are you?
I am doing great. How are you?
Very good, very good. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you.
And nice to meet you too. Okay, so let's get started here. So, were you a fan of wrestling growing up?
I was always a fan of wrestling growing up. I think the very first memory I ever had was probably watching The Ultimate Warrior pin Hulk Hogan. It's something that I've always watched. I watched my wrestling with my cartoons, and I've always been a lifelong fan.
Okay, so who were you a fan of?
You know, there's always like a political answer to this. You know, as a wrestler, you're supposed to say somebody specific, and then you're supposed to emulate them and act like them and kiss up to them. I don't have that response. I was really a fan of everything. I was a fan of the entire show. I even liked all the bad guys a little bit. I really just thoroughly enjoyed the show. I did have multiple favorites. Rick Rude was one of them. Ultimate Warrior, as I mentioned, I was always captivated by those two guys. And as I got older, Brian Pillman, Kurt Angle, Taz, basically everyone from ECW. Sean O'Hare was another guy. I had a bunch.
Oh, okay. So, how did you get started in professional wrestling?
About 4 years ago, I took a drive down to a professional wrestling academy in Las Vegas called Future Stars of Wrestling, which is still there. And the first month I started training, it was the first month I started wrestling.
Oh, okay. So, who was your first opponent?
My first opponent was, I think, an entire roster of wrestlers because my first match was a battle royal.
Oh.
But my first singles match was a guy named Nick Bugatti, and he wrestles out of Las Vegas, and he wrestles for a couple state televised shows all over the United States.
Okay, so how did that match go?
It went very well. I almost broke his spinal cord with a backbreaker, and then I proceeded to choke him out with a kata hajime. It went very well.
Okay, so did you do any sport prior to wrestling?
Yes, I was a little bit of an amateur wrestler. I never wrestled state or anything like that, but I did jiu-jitsu and judo and lots of different, we call it catch wrestling. So if you imagine Olympic wrestling with chokeholds and locks and stuff like that, I competed all over the place in these events called smokers. And it was World Series grappling. So it's like a grappling competition. They're still around. They go all over the world, and it's the greatest grapplers in the world. They go in there and they try to find out who the best is.
Okay, so up to this point, who has been your favorite opponent?
That's a tough one. It depends on what day of the week you ask me that. Today, I will say my favorite opponent is probably Tommy Dreamer from ECW. We had competed in Las Vegas a short time ago, and I believe that match is on Fight Network or somewhere floating around on the internet or somebody's camera phone.
Okay, what has been your favorite match to be a part of?
Some of my favorite matches to be a part of, unfortunately, happened in dark matches with Lucha Underground, which are basically untelevised matches,
Yeah.
and I can't even discuss them. But I mean, wrestling in the Temple for season 2 and 3 off television was a lot of fun, and I guess that had to do with the Los Angeles or the California audience in general. It's one of my favorite audiences to be in front of.
Okay, so can you name some of the promotion that you have been a part of?
Sure. AAA Lucha Libre Worldwide in Mexico, which is a major company. I was a part of that company for quite some time. And Future Stars of Wrestling in Las Vegas. Just recently, House of Hardcore, which goes all over the United States, primarily out of Philadelphia. There's been a lot. I've wrestled almost everywhere in the independents of the United States and all over Asia and in Mexico and the United States.
Okay, so do you have any dream opponents?
A dream opponent? I have 5 that I'm working on right now. One of them was Dr. Wagner, Ray Wagner, and I annihilated him. So now we're down to 4. The other was Alberto El Patron, or Del Rio, and I just finally caught up with him. He was dodging me for a while, and I broke a Singapore cane across his chest and maybe a spinal cord through a table in Mexico. So now we're down to 3. Pentagon, Phoenix, and Rey Mysterio Jr. are the last dream opponents. They're the 3 on the immediate blacklist, so to speak.
Okay. See you later. Do you have any like upcoming wrestling shows?
I have some shows coming up with House of Hardcore. One is St. James, New York, and the next following that will be in Philadelphia. And I believe that's March 23rd and 24th. I may be incorrect. You could always go to houseofhardcore.net, shameless plug. And I'm always wrestling in Las Vegas at Future Stars of Wrestling. If anyone ever wants to see me or you'd like to see me outside of California, I have a website. It's www.killerkross.com. And you could basically find out, I guess, anything you want about me. That's on public record. There's a lot of things we can't talk about, but...
Okay, so, and you have an upcoming match tonight at Ground Zero Phase 2?
Yes, Brody King. And no one knows this yet. You're going to be the first person to find this out, but I'm going to challenge him to a 10-count knockout rules match where there's going to be no pinfall, no submission, no count out. Basically, whoever gets knocked down, they have to the count of 10 to get back up. And Brody is one of the best heavyweights on the independent circuit, and it's going to be very special tonight because heavyweights are a dying breed on the independents because we hit the hardest. So when heavyweights usually start coming up, somebody like me or Brody will find them, and then we'll knock all the teeth out of their face, and then they don't want to be a pro wrestler anymore. They go back to badminton or something like that. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be special. You're going to like it.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that match.
Good.
Okay, so we're coming up to like final questions here.
Sure.
Is there any way people can like follow you on your social media, like you said, your website? And
Absolutely. There's that website, killerkross.com. I'm also available on Facebook, Killer Kross. Available on Instagram, Real Killer Kross. Available on Twitter, Real Killer Kross. I made it real simple across the boards. Everyone's got 90 different names. I have one name now. It's Killer Kross. Since you and I are friends now, you can call me Kevin.
Okay, well, thank you. We've kind of reached the end of the podcast here. It's pretty short. So thank you for being a guest on my podcast today.
Thank you very much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Okay, so...